I can't breathe.
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 Racial capitalism begins with suffocated bodies thrown overboard. The division and rule between the slave ship and the sea faces life without burial rights. Division, colonization, and abstraction become the threads of our interwoven lives. To live so long within this enframed, seeing ourselves as other than we are, our first task is surely to find ways of dreaming an outside, a beyond, an other world. A world of relations without elements, rhizomatic and yet unearthly. How can we learn to become the rhizomes of the ocean, to be seaweed that pick up signs of the times we are living in? Can we read the signs of division and rule in which we live? Can we read the signs of waterly connection?
Wars of division, life that matters, and life that does not matter. Everywhere, more building of concrete walls and wire fences and other security barriers. Alongside the walls, other security structures are emerging. As Ashil Mbembe suggests, checkpoints, enclosures, watchtowers, trenches, all manner of demarcations proliferate. In many cases, they have no other function than to intensify the enclaving of entire communities without ever fully succeeding in keeping away those considered a threat. Wars of plastic, division and rule of plastic, plastic in the womb, dead sea zones, plastic in the bellies of fish, into the mouths of birds, the dead sea zones without oxygen.
Division and rule. We place life in concentration camp-like conditions and break down its immunity. Division and rule. The earth breathes when capital struggles to breathe our last breaths, the breaths of the wretched of the earth. Division and rule. Those countries with access to the vaccine and those countries without. Division and rule. The vaccine is the new religion, the demonization of those who don't want the vaccine. COVID, as Winnicott would say, is the fear of a breakdown that's already happened and that will happen again.
What we think about is the Holocaust that we breathe in and out each day, for we live in the time image of the last breaths of the earth. Primo Levi said, Auschwitz is outside of us, but it is all around us, in the air. The plague has died away, but the infection still lingers, and it would be foolish to deny it.
We live in the time of the last breath, the time of the chokehold. The chokehold is an impact event. Once upon a time, so the story goes, around 4,500 million years ago, the moon was part of the Earth, but there is an impact event, a collision with a large planetary body, a tearing away of a hefty quantity of rock. The debris cooled, producing an assemblage that was becoming moon. The Earth and Moon assemblage, the tidal processes, the relational reality of this planet. Impact events are the metamorphosis of life on Earth, central moments in the structuring of new assemblages, often with unforeseen and unpredictable connections. Capital is the modern impact event, an abstract machine set to auto-destruct, overrunning into extinction, overrunning life, human, non-human, dehuman, anti-human, runaway machine. Foucault claimed that his job was making windows where there were once walls. In 1974, the US ecologist Garrett Hardin created the metaphor of Lifeboat Earth. Future survival for him needed to be governed by the ethics of a lifeboat, in which there is no place for the wretched of the earth. This is another name for what Agamben calls the ethics of the camp. This is to speak of the earth as a spaceship. It is only a matter of time before the air conditioning technology breaks, and then the wait begins, the time-limited existence. Yet we do not know what this spaceship can do. It is no empty box, not simply a container for life. It lives. We live only on condition that it lives.
Fanon schizoanalysis. Instead of thinking about the conflict as one between the desire for the mother and the law in the name of the father, we think about conflict as the conflict between colonization and the wretched of the earth and the wretched earth. And the symptom, alienation, exile, asylum seeking, suffocation. The cure, to create transversals, dream space, and revolution. And the product, a body that moves and questions, and the production of a new species.
A dream is not a dream until shared by the whole community.
Fanon's great innovation was to think the sociogeny of the human, its natural cultural indistinction beyond phylogeny and ontogeny, the particularity of transversalities, its relationality, its embodiment, its genealogy, its pathology, its coloniality.
Audre Lorde says, I do not have to be you to recognize that our wars are the same. What we must do is commit ourselves to some future that includes each other.
Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze. Strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees.
Certain writers employ the spoken and the written word, as noted by Paul Gilroy, in a way that was irrevocably black, not because of the color of their skin, not because of the subject matter, but because of the way the words are put together, the texture, tone, rhythm, so that anybody who hears them knows it is a black thing.
Billie Holiday's fight against the CIA is to transverse the walls. Those naming and shaming signifiers from above. A strange fruit, look, a strange fruit, I am scared. To turn the walls into bricks of sound. To create a play of vibration, of sound, of relationships coming together. As occurred in Robben Island, when Robben Island was turned into a university by the liberation movement for the liberation movement.
How can we break down the walls of division and rule? How can we remind the molar walls of the molecular bricks that they are, to give the walls a molecular body, to create movement in the place of the knot of walls? Swimming is an effective movement, a movement of water between the molar and the molecular. Swimming turns the knot of the walls into a mobile span. The bodies of trees give birth to the sky and earth they grew in, creating a world through the shadows and lights between the leaves and root. The poet's birth already marks a margin. The poetic center of one's world is not where he is born. One is always born to an island as an island instead of to a continent.
The world is created under water, in water. The world consists of bodies that connect to each other in a line of margins, a series of seaweeds in the currents.
Relation is that which simultaneously realizes and expresses this motion. It is the chaos mode relating to itself. The movement of waves, the contours of seaweeds changing with the waves, the motion of the world is a relation between the multiple in constant changes. The world creating chaos is full of relations.
Psychoanalysis, it seems, has rediscovered the vitality of relations with what is referred to as the relational revolution, with the revival of the work of Ferenczi. But is this just going to become another Eurocentric viewpoint, a human-centric viewpoint? If it is not going to be a human-centric viewpoint, we need to have relations with the earth, with the margins, as Glycerin would say, or as Foucault would say, we need to create a new species.
In this project, we think with a rich and growing body of engagements with sea, ocean, liquidities, bubbling up in multiple spaces and places, in the academy and outside. We immerse ourselves in currents of writings and engagements with oceans, water, wild swimming, and other watery thinking and acting from multiple and diverse angles, such as critical ocean studies, hydrocolonialism, hydrocriticism, and more, that speak to the impact of anthropocentric and colonial damages to the earth, humans, and other species. We are particularly inspired by hydrofeminist, ecofeminist, feminist decolonial, and indigenous works. Also art and activism, which engages with water and the ocean. We ask, together with Astrida Neymanis, in her words, how might paying attention to water, really paying attention to it, how it moves, what it does, what it is threatened by, how it organizes itself and other bodies, how might this kind of thinking with water open up a different sort of imaginative space, perhaps interrupting some of the foundational concepts and beliefs in dominant Western systems of thought that I have inherited?
To refigure embodiment as the interconnection of relationship, to reimagine embodiment as non-anthropomorphic, to think of bodies that are not just humans, bodies of water, planetary bodies, bodying as assemblage, bodies without edges constituted by gradients and thresholds, and yet still plural, many, refigured. To be plural without borders, no divisions, no discrete edges, but interbodiment, breath, flesh, body, bodies of water and breath.
The memory of going to the beach every New Year's Eve is one I share with cousins and most people raised black. How the elders would forbid us from going in too deep, to giggle, to splash in our black tights and ShopRite plastic bags wrapped around our new weaves, forbid us from riding the wave for fear that we would be a mass of blackness swept by the tide and never to return like litter. The elders forbid us as if the ocean has food poisoning. I often wonder why I feel as if I am drowning every time I look out into the sea. This and feeling incredibly small. And I have often heard this joke about black people being scared of water or not being able to swim. We are mocked, and we have often mocked ourselves for wiping our faces the way that we do when we come out of water, compared to how they do it all Baywatch-like, and how we so ratchet-like with our postures and kink. Every time our skin goes under, it's as if the reeds remember that they were once chains, and the water, restless, wishes that it could spew all the slaves and ships onto shore, whole as they had boarded, sailed, and sunk. Their tears are what have turned the ocean salty. This is why our irises burn every time we go under. Every December 16th, December 24th, December 31st, our skin re-traumatizes the sea. They mock us for not being able to willingly throw ourselves into something that was instrumental in trying to execute our extinction.